Hey everybody, it's Miss C, and today we're going to take a little different direction. We're not going to follow our packet. I'm going to add an extra page that we're going to read today because I got some really good questions about resources and natural resources and energy that we generate from them. So one of the questions was, how do we generate or how do we get energy from water? And that's a really great question. What we do is we use kind of like it's called hydroelectric power. So what we do is we harness the energy from the movement of the water. And if anybody remembers from the beginning of the year, energy that is moving is called mechanical energy. So we are able to harness that energy of movement from the water moving, and we turn that into electricity. So today we are going to read about the different natural resources that exist in the United States. So each state has its own natural resources, and some are going to be different than others depending on where that state is located geographically. So we're going to start on page 212. Please open your Fusion book if you have it, and if you don't, no problem, because I'm going to start reading it right now. From coast to coast. You use natural resources every day. Some natural resources provide shelter, others help you learn in school. On these pages, you will learn where some natural resources come from. Every state has natural resources. Many natural resources are found in greater quantities in some parts of the United States than in others. So quantity is an amount. Trees, silver, wind, coal, and fish are just a few examples of natural resources found in the United States. Some mine land to get, I just made a mistake. People mine land to get many natural resources. Some mining is done to get valuable minerals such as silver, iron, and copper. So remember, mining is when we're digging up or we're excavating, that means digging, that's a fancy word for digging out of the earth these different natural resources. So the ores, remember those minerals. Mining also takes place to get fossil fuels. So in order to get those fossil fuels, we also have to dig deep into the ground. Other mining gets rocks used to construct roads and buildings. So rocks are natural resources that we use to make roads and buildings. Sometimes land is used for food production. Ranchers raise cattle that graze on the land. Dairy farmers use land to raise cows that provide what? What do cows provide? Milk and cheese, to make milk to make cream and cheese. And soil is also used to grow crops such as corn, avocados, and oranges, and many other things. Some land is used to produce green energy, or energy generated using renewable resources. So if you have ever heard the word if you've ever heard the phrase going green, we're going to go green, that is just means that people want to use more renewable resources. So those resources that are able to replenish themselves, and that if we use conservation, we wisely use our resources, then we won't run out of those things. So wind farms, solar cells, and hydroelectric dams use wind, sunlight, and water to produce electrical energy. Forests, or areas with large numbers of trees, provide lumber. People use lumber to make paper and furniture to build houses. So this little box right here on page 212, it says, look at the natural resources map and locate the region where you live. Circle the renewable resources and draw an X over the non-renewable resources found there. So let's look at this page right here. And I know it's a little bit backwards on my screen, or maybe on your screen from my screen. So we live in the Northeast. So we live in this red section right here. And in the Northeast, we have green energy because we get lots of, we actually don't get a lot of sunlight in Syracuse, but a lot of our agricultural fields now are being turned into solar farms. So they're putting up huge solar panels to capture the sunlight, and that's solar energy is a form of green energy. So we have green energy, we have lots of trees also. We have mining in the Northeast. So there's lots of mining for different types of minerals and rocks. And we have fisheries. So we have lots of fisheries. We're near the ocean. We're pretty close to the coast compared to any of the states in the Midwest or the West. They're not near any water, right? But we're right near the ocean. So we have fisheries. And the Northwest compared to the Midwest, there are lots more cows over here, which means farming. But we actually do have a lot of farms in New York. We have lots of farms. So these pictures, people use trees for lumber. That's what we have right here. We have a picture of a dam that we use for hydroelectric power, and hydro means water. So we use the motion or the mechanical energy of the water to get that hydroelectric power. We also use turbines and solar panels to get green energy. And right here we have people mine land to get minerals, rocks, and fossil fuels. So this is a picture where we have to dig into the ground to get those fossil fuels and to mine or bring up those different minerals. So that is how we use our natural resources to generate, and generate just means to make power. So a lot of those we use for power. We use the trees. We can that's called the biomass. So that's just a big word for using living things like plants to make energy. Our soil, it helps us grow food. So we don't necessarily use soil for energy, but we do use soil to grow food, and that is energy. We use the hydroelectric dams to create electricity, and we use the solar panels to make energy from the sun. And what am I missing? We use the rocks and we use the minerals to make houses. So all of these natural resources we have at our disposal, kind of, but remember, we have to use conservation. So we have to remember to wisely use our resources. If we use them all up at once, even though they are renewable, some of them, doesn't mean that we can get them back within the amount of time that we need them. So that's why conservation is so important. So tomorrow we will pick up where we left here, and we will talk about the water cycle. So can't wait to see you tomorrow, and I hope you're having a great day. Bye-bye.